So hello and welcome to our case broadcast. It's hello from me, Patrick Twitchett, and
it's a good and big hello from me, Melvin Manning. Looking forward to this lovely chat with Kuda.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No, excellent. It's a pleasure. Pleasure's all ours. Definitely. So, Kuda, just want to introduce the broadcast to our guests today. So our case stands for Connecting and Supporting Entrepreneurs. We hope you spotted the acronym. We run mastermind groups, monthly workshops, and this monthly broadcast on video and audio, where we want to give you, the listener, some valuable input to help you on your journey. So listen out, listen up, and listen in. And we've got our guest today, Kuda Biza, all the way from across the pond in the US of A. So whereabouts in the US of A are you calling us from today, Kuda?
The Big Apple.
Ah, fantastic. And just so our guests get a little bit of an idea of who you are, could you tell us in sort of 20 to 30 seconds what it is that you do, please, Kuda?
I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
That's what I do. I start businesses. I've started maybe 7 businesses so far. I've started a nonprofit as well. And these businesses are across different categories. We have a sports merchandising business. We do a lot of work with a lot of the English Premiership teams here in the US. We also have a cookie business, which is growing. We also have a personal development brand. So I'm into quite a lot of things. So I'm quite the definition of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, fantastic.
So you found some time to write a book as well, Kuda?
Yeah, well, we all have time, right? Each morning you wake up and you have 24 hours. So I somehow managed to...
You wake up and you have 24 hours.
That.
You have a different clock to us. You wake
it's
up
the same clock, just used differently.
You must tell me which doctor you see. You must prescribe some good pills.
So I know you've written this book, Kuda, and we'd like you to explain a little bit of the concept and the principles behind that book to share with our listeners. They're made up of some budding entrepreneurs, so they'd like to hear a little bit more about that, if you could, please.
Sure. So my book is called The Spear Method, 5 Simple Steps to Success and Fulfillment. And I think, with any entrepreneur, the goal when you start business is not to fail, right? You want to be successful. So that's, kind of like a given. But also you want to make sure that in your quest for success, you're fulfilled, because entrepreneurship is one thing that defines you. But, in some cases, you're a parent, you're a spouse, you are, a child to your parents, you're a friend. So there's so many other things that make up each individual beyond just being an entrepreneur. Although you might spend quite a lot of time as an entrepreneur, give in your 24 hours, but there's so many other aspects in your life that are important. But you find that sometimes, when people are kind of like on this quest for success, they tend to neglect all these other areas. And what ends up happening is that you end up, maybe achieving the success, but you're burnt out. A lot of the relationships that are important to you have been neglected, and you're not fulfilled. So you end up becoming this miserable millionaire or miserable billionaire, right? There are a lot of people that I know that are billionaires, but they're not happy because, they were just focused on pursuing success and they totally forgot about fulfillment. And what I wanted to do with this book was to really figure out how can you pursue both success and fulfillment together. because I'm kind of like a firm believer of, you can have both, versus the school of thought of you have one or the other, right? So for me, I was like, how can I get both? So I went on this journey where I interviewed, hundreds of people. So think about self-made millionaires, professional athletes, people who've achieved tremendous amount of success, some of which had achieved both success and fulfillment, and some who openly said they achieved the success but not the fulfillment. So it was really good to get, both sides of the story. And what I realized was that there's actually a framework that you can apply to your life day to day that will help you achieve both success and fulfillment. And that framework is called the SPEAR method, which is the title of my book. And for me, the reason that made me go on this journey was because, I was in corporate America for over a decade. And, I was in this big multi-billion-dollar company. And my job in that company, believe it or not, was to start new companies. So I was like an entrepreneur in this multi-billion-dollar company. And I would literally just get like an idea on a napkin from our CEO, and they'll be like, hey, I have this idea. Can you turn it into a business? And it was my job to take that crude concept and actually turn it into a multi-million-dollar business in a very short period of time. And as I'd been in corporate America, I'd gone on this quest of just chasing success, right? Building one business, turning it into a multi-million-dollar venture, getting onto the another one, on the next one, building it into a multi-million-dollar venture, just kind of like climbing the corporate ladder. And I started neglecting some of the relationships and the things that made me, fulfilled. And what made me realize that was when my sister tragically passed away. And, when she passed away, for me, it was kind of like a wake-up call, because for about, 5 to 7 years, I wasn't really creating memories with her and doing stuff, and because I was just chasing success. And when I was at her funeral, I was like, wait a minute, I really need to take a step back. It's good to become successful, right? To have the financial means to look after your family, have a good life. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that you're doing the things that give you fulfillment. You're also making sure that you're happy. You're investing time in your relationships and the people that you love. You're investing time in your health, and all these other important areas that actually make you as an entrepreneur, super successful. Because if you're happy, if you're healthy, and all these other areas of life are level 10, the way you show up in your business is also going to be level 10. So that's what led me to this journey, and ended up finding out the framework.
Yeah, okay. And the journey of your book sounds very similar to that of Napoleon Hill when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. He was out there interviewing all those successful people to pull all those ideas in. And I think, your very tragic experience, losing your sister like that, which is very, very sad. People get that wake-up call in life. Sometimes it's the doctor tells them that they've got cancer, or there's a real illness strikes the family, or something very big, and it pulls all of life into a reality. And very often that's the life-changing experience for people. But I suppose in essence, what your book is doing, it's saying, rather than have that horrible tragedy in your life, open your eyes and have that realization now. Would that be really what you're trying to push to the readers?
Yeah, well, it's two things really. It's that, but the more important reason is that tomorrow is never guaranteed. Like my sister, when she passed away, she was very young. She was like 40, right? And she just went outside to take a walk, and that was that. A dog attacked her out of the blue, and that was it. So you don't know when your last day is, right? So tomorrow is never guaranteed. So what usually happens, especially with entrepreneurs, is like, hey, I'm gonna enjoy life after I sell the company, or like once I hit this threshold, then I will enjoy. Well, first of all, who even said that you're gonna become successful and you're actually gonna hit that milestone? And second of all, what if it never happens? What if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? So I think the fundamental thing here is that instead of like saying like, hey, I want to do this first and then go and become happy, you know, you want to be doing it in parallel. You want to do it together, because then, you know, both tides actually rise together. But let's say you actually do the former, right? Which is you build this business, you just hunker down, and then you're like 75 now, you sell it, and now you're super wealthy. You know, you're like 75, you're in your 80s, like, you know, you don't have the same energy and the vibrancy as you had when you were like 40 or 50, right? So if you do it together, you know, you then get to enjoy life as you kind of like become wiser and grow. But more importantly, if you have children, you then actually get to create these memories that then, you know, both of you and your children can kind of like cherish together. So that's really the mindset there with the spear method.
So when you're going through your method, Kuda, what are the signs? What you know? So like what happens to give you that? Oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or I should be looking at that differently. Where are the signs coming from? Because speaking from my own experience, I was a lunatic. I was in business at the age of 19, very successful, semi-retired at 45. I'm now 62. Now, I went through a lot of what you're talking about. So I didn't see the signs because I slept on the floor of the office. I missed the growing up of my 3 children. You know, I was working 22, 24 hours a day. You know, I was on that similar clock to the clock you work on. And quite frankly, you know, it didn't damage my health, but it damaged the rest of my life. I'm now a divorced man over some of that fact. So what do you think in this modern technological time that we find ourselves in that lunacy of that big, let's say, greedy old world out there, what are the modern day signs?
So I think what would be important is to actually start by going through the spear method, because then once we understand the framework, I think some of these questions will actually become much more easier to comprehend. So the spear method, it's a 5-step process, and it's literally the acronym of SPEAR. So the first letter S is seek your purpose. You see, a lot of people, from my experience, they get into something just because it's kind of like the hot thing to do. So like, let's say, for instance, I have a lot of friends right now who are saying like, oh, I'm getting into crypto.
Yeah.
Because there's just, you know, it's trending, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin, you know, it's going up, and they just want to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, when I talk to that person, you know, their purpose is totally something different than investing in crypto. So what they're going to do is they're going to chase success in something that's not in alignment with their purpose. And even if they then end up becoming successful, they're not happy because they were not operating in their purpose. So the first step of you know, the SPEAR method really evolves around self-awareness. You really need to know yourself. You really need to know who you are, what your life's calling is, and you know, you want to make sure that everything that you then do is in alignment with that, or you make the conscious decision to say like, okay, I'm going to do this instead, but I really do know that my purpose is this. So it's really important for you to take that time to really understand your purpose.
Sure.
And what I like about stage 1 is that if you look at the definition of purpose in the dictionary, you will find that it says that purpose is the reason why something exists. So Melvin, for example, right? You taking that moment, it's like, hey, why do I exist? Why was I created? You know, you have unique gifts that only you and only yourself can share with the world.
Sure.
And, you know, your pursuit and sharing of those gifts is what will actually, you know, lead you to success and fulfillment. So look at, let's say, LeBron James. LeBron James is celebrated by the world because he knows his purpose. He knows the reason why he exists and what he's really good at, and he's sharing that gift with everybody. And you know, you can see the amount of success he's made, but also how many people he lights up whenever he just takes that ball and plays.
Yes.
So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is P, right? Spear. So it's P after the S, and it's planning. So once you've taken time to really think through what is your purpose, and by the way, in the book, in that first section, I actually share, ways on how you can seek your purpose in case you haven't really gone through that exercise. So there's a few different methods there. So I'll highly encourage you to just read the book and see the steps that I share there. But the second step is you want to plan, right? So when I came to the US, because I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I came to the US for uni, I double majored because I knew that my purpose was business. That was kind of like my life's calling, but I loved to fly. That was kind of like something that just gave me fulfillment. I wanted to be in the air. I wanted to fly. So the interesting thing is I would go to the flight school to take flight lessons and we'll be told before every flight, you need a flight plan. And then I'll go to the business school and we're taking business classes and they'll say like, hey, before you launch any business, you need to write a business plan. But how many people actually then sit down and write a life plan, right? Like, what is the plan for my life, right? So it's super important that once you've taken the time in understanding your purpose, similar to like if you were to go on a plane, you want to see the pilot working on the flight plan. It gives you confidence to say like, okay, he's planning it out. It's different if you had to get on a plane and the pilot was like, I don't know how we're going to get there. We're just going to wing it. You're not really going to be confident, right? There are a lot of people in life who just kind of like wing it. They just take each day as it comes and, it's your life. It's super important. So you want to sit down and plan. But one thing I mention and really highlight in the book and demystify is the fact that a plan is not static. A plan is dynamic. So for instance, if you're watching a soccer game, that's part of the reason you see the manager standing on the touchline, because the game plan that he started before the game changes and adapts as the game changes. So it's the same thing with your life, right? As you learn more, as you take action and you're getting input and feedback from the universe, you need to be making tweaks, daily to your plan, but the destination doesn't change. The goal is still the same. You want to achieve your life's purpose, but you're making constant tweaks to your plan to make sure that, you stay on course and you get there. Similar to like when you're flying a plane, the plan is you don't want to hit any turbulence, but then if you hit turbulence, what are you going to do, right? You change the plan, but the destination still stays the same. So maybe you go at a higher altitude than before so that you go over that turbulence, but your destination doesn't change. So that's the next part. You really want to make sure that every single day you have a routine, even if it's 5 minutes a day, where you really look at your calendar, the activities, the things that you're spending time on, in making sure that you're putting your time, your energy, and you're being productive in things that actually then lead to you achieving your purpose. And then the next one, which I think is super fundamental, is E, which is execute. Because what's the point of you taking the time in understanding what your purpose is, taking the time in planning, but then take zero action, right? Ideas do not work unless you do. So Melvin, you were talking about, you're a business guy, right? Imagine you come up with this brilliant business idea and then you just sit on it. What's going to happen?
Oh, nothing will happen.
Exactly. So that's the other element too, is that people might take time really understanding like, okay, this is my purpose. This is my life's calling. This is the beautiful plan I've put together. And then they go sit down and have coffee and do nothing. So you're never going to be successful. And you're never going to be fulfilled because you never took the action. So making sure that you take massive action on that will enable you to get to your result. But the challenge is that sometimes, when you start, right, it seems as if you're not making progress, right? Because you have this big, hairy, audacious goal you want to achieve, and you're taking action, but you're not really seeing the change. What's important is you just need to stay on course, because the eighth wonder of the world will then come into play. And what's the eighth wonder of the world? The eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. Compound interest doesn't just apply to finance. compound interest also applies to action. So think about it. You know, I never used to run. Like, you know, I never used to run. But then one day I came up with this brilliant idea that, hey, I want to start long distance running. I want to run a marathon. I want to run a half a marathon. Day one, it was super difficult. Like, I took action, but I couldn't even finish a mile without having to stop and walk and catch my breath. But I kept doing it. Every single day I would go outside and run for 10 minutes consistently over like a period of time. And that 10 minutes after a couple of weeks became 20 minutes nonstop. It became 45 minutes nonstop. And I was able to do my half marathon. So what happens is that when you're taking action consistently, you don't see the changes until it just hits an exponential curve. And then there's this massive action. So you need to make sure that you just stay on course, you just keep doing it, and let the compounding effect of your action, remember the eighth wonder of the world, knock into effect, and then you just see, you know, the action give you just tremendous results. Now, after E, there's A, right, for SPEAR, and A really stands for achieve. You can go back to, you know, Newton's third law, which says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So whenever you take action, right, whenever you execute, you're going to achieve something. So it could be 1% of your goal. It could be 100% of your goal. But what you want to do is you want to measure and track that achievement, because what that will do, it will then inform you of how much more action you need to put in order for you to hit your next milestone, which will then lead to the final step, which is repeat, where you always want to then, you want to achieve something and then measure that result and then repeat the process of making sure that everything that you're doing, you filter it through your purpose filter. You go back to your plan, you make your tweaks, you execute, you achieve something, measure that result and repeat. And by just having that constant loop, it would mean that all the actions that you're doing are in alignment with your purpose. And ultimately over time, you're going to achieve some sort of success, but more importantly, you're going to be fulfilled because you're living in your purpose, you're taking action, you are not, you know, wasting opportunities, right? You're making sure like you're making the most of it. And by doing that, you'll be able to achieve both success and fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I like what you said there, that where you're repeating everything, it's being filtered, whatever changes you make, because it's quite right, a plan has to be adaptable and flexible to everything around us and life situation, but that it's filtered through the purpose filter. I like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with the eighth wonder of the world. So, you know, even at my time in life, I mean, I've just started 5 businesses now, and you know, you can never stop learning. It's a sponge. What you've done is dynamic, Kuda. I'm looking forward to getting a copy of your book. Where do I get a copy of your book?
You can get it on Amazon. So it's on Amazon US, Amazon UK, any of the main Amazon websites.
Yeah. So
you can get it directly on my website, spearmethod.com.
Yeah.
So you can just go there and you can learn more about me. You can read more about the book. You can order the book there. And we have inventory in multiple locations across the world. So if you're in the UK, you'll probably get it in like 2 to 3 days. The shipping is super fast.
And will I find you featured on YouTube anywhere?
Yes, we have a YouTube channel for my personal development brand called This Is My Era. So I have a bunch of videos there where I talk about personal development and things like that. I'm actually in the process of working on my own personal YouTube channel. So we're actually in the scripting phase and we're going to start recording in May. And the channel is going to go live officially on June 1st. So we're going to be posting a video every weekday, right? We're talking about taking action, right? Taking massive action. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'll be posting a video 5 times a week, meaning I have to be generating 20 videos per month. So we're really planning that, and we have an interesting content calendar right now. I was looking at it over the weekend, over about 80 scripts that we have. So that's 4 months of content already that we've put together. So I'm really excited about that launch, because I think it's important to be able to share your message, to inspire others, because, part of my story, like I just, touched on, I came to America with $40 in my pocket. That's all I had, right? And, for some people, they suffer from, like imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to start a business? Who am I to take this idea and, create value in the world? Well, you are who you are, and you are enough just by being you. And it was a lesson that I had to learn myself, because when I landed at Miami International Airport, going to college with $40 in my pocket, I felt like nobody, right? Because, I have a weird accent, I'm from Zimbabwe, and, who am I to come and try to be super disruptive? But you know what? A couple of years later, I started my second business in university with $150. And that business went on to educate hundreds of children in Africa. But if I had listened to that small voice saying that, who are you to do this? Right? You shouldn't be doing this. You're just this kid from Africa. More than 100 children wouldn't have been able to get an education through that business that we created, right? So I think it's important as individuals to make sure that we don't listen to those voices, and we don't self-sabotage. And that's part of what I'm trying to use that channel to do, is to really just make people understand that, hey, a lot of the people that you see who've achieved a lot of success, there's really nothing special about them but the fact that they decided to be bold enough to take action. That was really it. You have high school dropouts creating multi-billion-dollar businesses. They didn't even go to university, but because they were brave enough and they were bold enough to take action, they were then able to attract the smart people, right? The PhDs from Harvard and things like that, who can then, come in and add value and align with that vision. And then they were able to create something amazing. So the action piece for me is the game changer. And that's what I really want to use the channel to do, to get people to take action.
Yeah, well, that's been a very big thing in my life, in surrounding myself with people who are smarter than I am. So that, to me, I can, totally, yes, I'm big there with you, supporting that. I love the fact that you brought your culture to the United States, and obviously coming from Zimbabwe, and obviously that's got a very, very rich history, that particular part of Africa. Your ethos with the, let's say, the American learning, I think, has really made a super difference to your own life. And quite frankly, where do you bottle it? Where do we buy the bottles of your energy?
Well, what I will say is that I'm connected with some people who have so much more energy than I do. So I mentioned the cookie company that I have, where I'm a co-founder. One of the investors in the business is Tony Robbins. So, being connected to Tony and seeing what he does, if you think that, I have a ton of energy, my energy is this, and Tony's energy is like this. So it just gives you context of like, with some of the people that I'm around, I'm the smallest person in the room.
Yeah, but you like Tony Robbins, Patrick, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, and he's fantastic. And I mean, I've seen some of his daily routines where he gets up in the morning and all the stuff he does, and it's just so intense. But he's just so full on all the time. It must be great to just be around, and you can't really sit still in the presence of a person like that. You can't just sort of say, "Oh, let's just sit back here and relax for a little while." It's like, no, come on, let's go, isn't it? So it's that.
Yeah. But if you listen to his story, right, he was homeless when he was 17. So he also had to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
And the decision was, am I going to just listen to this voice and just say, like, I'm never going to amount to something? or I'm going to double down and take action and make something of myself.
Mm.
And look at where he is now, you know?
Yeah.
So you know, I'm thankful and privileged to obviously be connected to him and many others. Obviously, I'm not here to name drop or anything, but you know, there's so many other people that have now been in my ecosystem that I get to learn from.
Yeah.
And you know, it's super important to never stop learning, to never stop growing, but to constantly push yourself, you know, as hard as you can. And one of the things that I'll share, you know, in closing is that never compare yourself to others, because the only person that you are in competition with is your potential. So you always just need to make sure that you're measuring yourself against your potential. Because when you do that, you'll then quickly know, are you giving 100% or you're giving 25%? Because you know your potential, you know what you can do, and you know when you're not showing up 100% every single day, or you're showing up 10% every single day. So just make sure, like, don't care about what other people are doing. Just focus on, when you're measured against your potential, where do you stand? And just be in consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Excellent.
Couldn't have said it better. Beautifully put. But I'd like you, before you go, because I know you've got to shoot off to some other events. Can you share us your 11th commandment? I've just invented the 11th commandment for you. On, I'm down, I'm depressed, I've had a knockback. What do I do to pick myself back up? What's the 11th commandment?
Yeah, so for me, I think the 11th commandment is believing that anything is possible, and nothing is impossible. So what I would say, it will just be married down to this, and I'll put it into like a remix, because I like to remix things. So there's a guy called Mark Twain, and he came up with this quote that says, the two most important days in life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And I took time to really critically think about it. And I was like, you know what? It's good, but I think it's 2/3 there. There's a little 1/3 that's missing, which I think is the 11th commandment. So there are actually 3 important days in a person's life: the day you're born, the day you found out why, and each day you act on your why. So when you're down, what you need to then go do is you just go back and remember your why, right?
Yeah.
And then just go double down, putting action on your why. So, you know, you make sure that every single day you're putting action on your why. So for me, that's my 11th commandment, to make sure that there's no day that goes by without me acting on your why. Because if you started the day down and you're feeling, you know, out, if you then put action towards your why, you know what's going to happen? You're going to feel happy, you're going to feel energized, because you know you've moved the needle on your why.
Yeah.
And that just, that alone will change your energy state, and it'll put you back in a very good mood. And before you know it, that thing that you were down and sad about is forgotten, and you're just focused on pushing onwards and forward.
Well, there you go. You got the title to your next book, Kuda's 11th Commandment.
Thank you so much.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much.
Thoroughly enjoyable. But in summary, Patrick, where are you?
So, well, we need to summarize very quickly, because I know Kuda's got to be away. So there's two very quick things we need from you. The first is, we love our listeners to feed back to us, and we want them to mention a phrase or a word that you can give us, Kuda, to sum up what we've spoken about today. What would that word or phrase be?
Well, I think, you know, the 11th commandment is good. So if they want, they can talk about the phrase, the 3 most important days in life are the day you're born, the day you find out why, and each day you act on your why. I think if they can like push it out, I think it's a good inspirational message that everybody needs to hear every single day.
Excellent. Oh, that's brilliant. And Kuda, how can our listeners best, we've obviously heard some of your websites already, but what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
I'm old school, so they can write me a letter. I can give you my address if you want. I'm joking. They can get in touch with me on Instagram. It's Kuda Biza, so KUDABIZA, and they can just hit me up on Instagram. I'm quite active there, so they can send me a comment, a DM, or whatever. And usually at the end of the day, I usually sit down and read all my comments and reply to all messages. So if there's a place where you really want to get my attention, it's really there. So that would be my recommendation.
Fantastic.
Yeah, get on that Instagram right now.
Indeed. So I'm gonna finish this up now because I'm aware of time. So it's a very good bye from me.
And it's a very good bye from him. And it's a very good bye from
Kuda. Thank you so much. It was fun. And can't wait to listen to the episode.